Shadows, The Horror Movie Heroes, by Clouds, read by Distracted by Books, Chapter 23, Strings. Hitoshi kept his hands in his pockets as he walked towards the self-proclaimed Blue Dogs Gang's hideout, or what was left of them after their leader had been arrested the first day while going after objective number 8, the bank. The other two members of the gang were still going strong, though, and had managed to hold on to the bank objective even without their leader. They were competent, that much was clear, and that meant that they were a threat, so if everything went smoothly, they would be out of the game by the end of the day. It was the same reason why Hitoshi and Izuku had sent Jiro and Kaminari to the pawn shop for their weapons. He and Izuku didn't have nearly enough training to take down everyone by themselves, at least not yet. So the most logical option was to get the right information to the right people and let things run their course from there. The hideout was just a few streets away, so Hitoshi ducked into the nearest building, which was really just a storefront with a few racks of thrift store finds to represent a whole clothing department. A single civilian employee was reading a book at the counter, but he looked up as Hitoshi walked in, the door chiming a little tune as it opened. Hitoshi shrugged awkwardly. Bathrooms? The employee sighed. They're in the back. Hitoshi smiled and took control of him. Thanks. Now forget I was ever here. He kept his quirk activated as he looked around the store. It didn't take long to find the bathroom, and he took note of a back entrance he could slip out of once he was dressed. Hitoshi changed as quickly as he could, but it still took a few minutes, which was unfortunately just long enough for someone else to wander into the store. Hitoshi cursed quietly when he heard the chime of the door opening. He shoved his mask on and slipped out of the back room, keeping his footsteps silent and using the racks of clothing to stay as out of sight as he could. The employee was still brainwashed at the front, staring off into space with his book lying forgotten on the counter in front of him. Why did someone have to show up now? Sir? A new voice asked hesitantly. Are you okay? Hitoshi peeked around the clothing rack he was hiding behind to see the newcomer reach out and softly shake the employee. It wasn't quite hard enough to loosen Hitoshi's control, but it seemed like a natural time to drop it, so he did. The employee blinked and let out a forced chuckle. Sorry, I must have zoned out there. How can I help you? From his hiding place, Hitoshi breathed a sigh of relief and made his way out the back door. It squeaked a little as he pushed it open, but even if the employee realized someone else was there, Hitoshi could just melt into the shadows in the alley behind the store and get away. Hey, is someone there? Hitoshi let the door slam shut behind him, and he hurried down the alley. He'd spent enough time here already. It was time to talk to a gang. For as many times that the Hata brothers had participated in this little exercise, they sure weren't doing so hot this time around. Normally, by this point, they'd gotten at least one objective, but those heroes at the start had been on top of it. Eraser must be so proud of his kids. Ichiro groaned. What objective do you think we should go after next? Which ones are even left? Jiro asked. Normally, a lot of them get picked up the first day. I don't know. This exercise is different every year. Ichiro shrugged. There's got to be some left, right? I mean, yeah, but how do we find them? Ichiro's phone beeped and he frowned. I thought I put that on silent. He pulled his phone out and checked the notification. Okay, well, that's not creepy at all. What? Jiro came to look over his brother's shoulder. Who's it from? No idea, Ichiro said. It's just a text. Would you like help finding your next objective? Whoa, these phones really are listening in on our conversations, aren't they? Jiro grimaced. Because we do need help. But how does this person even know that? He trailed off as the phone beeped again and a message popped up. It's not the phones that are listening. Winky smile. The brothers froze. Okay, yeah, Ichiro gulped. Definitely creepy. Should we block the number? Jiro asked. I feel like we should block the number. Ichiro nodded, but they both hesitated for a few seconds, just long enough for another text to come in. But if you do that, I can't tell you where the drugs are. Who are you? Jiro glared at the phone. Why do you want to help us? You can call me Shadows. That doesn't answer our second question, Ichiro pointed out. Why do you want to help us? You're here just to annoy Eraserhead. Can you really judge my motivations? They both winced at that, and Ichiro sighed. All right, you got us. Where are the drugs? Why didn't Gran come and watch this every year? This was prime entertainment, and those Shadow kids were just fun. It was better than daytime television for sure. Nedzu was across the room from him, and Gran could see the glint in the rat's eyes as he carefully evaluated every move those two made, and most likely came up with a million different scenarios for every possible outcome. As entertaining as watching Shadows was, though, he wasn't here to watch them. He was here to keep an eye on All Might's successor. Gran couldn't have been able to predict the way that One for All would mutate her quirk, but Kyoka Jiro had spunk, and she was doing well despite that. Of course, that was partially due to the Shadow's influence as well, but it was just luck that she'd been able to find a brainwasher to help her. She hasn't broken any bones yet. Recovery Girl hobbled over to the couch he was sitting on and eased herself down next to him. In fact, no one's had any serious injuries yet. I'm starting to feel like a useless old woman. Oh, you could never be useless, Gran chuckled. An old man like me, however. Recovery Girl hit his knee with her cane. At least you've still got a couple brain cells left, unlike that student of yours. I swear, if he didn't have a heart of gold to make up for it, I'd have no idea how he became the #1 hero. Meh, he's got a good head on his shoulders. He just doesn't always use it, Gran said. Do you normally have a lot of injuries by this point? Recovery Girl nodded. Tons. Normally, I've got at least 3 broken bones and a couple cases of quirk exhaustion, and that's just the students, not even the villains they take down. Normally, though, I don't have a group of middle schoolers murdering people left and right. Gran laughed loudly. Just enjoy your break. Something tells me that you'll be working overtime later. What are you two talking about over there? Mike called over. I feel like I missed a joke. We were just talking about how there's been fewer injuries this year, Recovery Girl answered. That's because it's all been psychological warfare, Snipe said. These young'uns are all gonna need therapy after this. All of them. Hound Dog cut in. Did you hear the way Shadows were talking earlier? They expect everyone to turn on them. They're being logical, Eraserhead said. And pessimistic, Midnight argued. No kids should be expecting their friends to turn on them. Why don't you go ahead and pencil them in for a few appointments, Hound Dog? Nedzu said. After what we've seen so far, we'll need to evaluate their psychological state before we admit them into the hero course, so we might as well get a head start. Hound Dog nodded, and Gran turned back to look at Jiro, who was currently lining up canisters of pepper spray, while Kaminari tossed a metal baseball bat back and forth between his hands. Yeah, all these kids were gonna need therapy. Hitoshi strode into the Blue Dog's hideout like he owned the place. Nice place you got here. You do the decorating yourself? The lady that Izuku had told him had a knife quirk glared at him. You're the info broker this year, aren't you? That's me. Hitoshi gave a little bow. I'm surprised you've heard of me. It's only the second day. Word gets around, the guy said. So what do you have to offer? Oh. Hitoshi reached into his pocket and pulled out the flash drive. Just a way to deactivate the security systems at the museum so you can get the crown. You can owe me a favor. The woman snatched the flash drive right out of his hand. done. Now get out of here. Info brokers give me the creeps. Hitoshi smiled as he left. Mission accomplished. End of chapter.